The crowd started screaming before she even stepped out of the car. Not at a movie premiere. Not at a concert. At a child development center in northern Italy. And in that moment, without saying a single word, something became painfully obvious to the entire world. While one royal figure was quietly earning admiration through years of consistency, another was fighting to hold on to attention. And this week, those two worlds collided. Because while Catherine, Princess of Wales, was being cheered through the streets of Italy by crowds who had traveled hours just to see her, thousands of miles away in California, Meghan Markle was facing a very different kind of reaction online. One side looked natural. The other looked manufactured. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why royal commentators are calling this one of the most revealing weeks the monarchy has seen in years. So settle in, because this story is bigger than headlines. It's about the difference between attention and trust. For years, those two forces have existed side by side inside the royal drama. One strategy built around visibility. The other built around patience. One demands the spotlight. The other quietly earns respect over time. And for the first time in a long time, the contrast became impossible to ignore. Let's start in Italy. Catherine traveled to Reggio Emilia for a working visit focused on early childhood education. And that matters, because this wasn't a glamorous celebrity appearance dressed up as charity work. This is something she has spent years building. Long before the cameras arrived, Catherine had already dedicated herself to studying child development, emotional well-being, and the science behind the earliest years of life. She launched major initiatives around the subject. Met with researchers. Visited schools and centers around the world. Not because it was trendy. Because she genuinely believes those early years shape everything that follows. And Reggio Emilia was the perfect place for her to visit. The city is internationally respected for its pioneering approach to early childhood education. Experts from across the globe study its methods. This was a serious trip. A future queen gathering ideas, learning directly from specialists, and bringing that knowledge back home. And yet, despite the academic nature of the visit, the public response looked more like a stadium event. People lined the streets. Some had reportedly traveled 3 hours just to catch a glimpse of her. And when Catherine stepped out of that car alone, no Prince William beside her, no large royal entourage dominating the moment, the reaction was explosive. The cheers echoed through the streets. But what truly stood out wasn't the crowd. It was the children. Because the second Catherine entered the room, they rushed toward her. Not cautiously. Not awkwardly. Not because someone instructed them to. They ran to her naturally. That's the thing about children. They don't care about titles. They don't care about PR campaigns or media narratives. Children react honestly. Instinctively. And every photo from that trip captured the same thing. Comfort. Warmth. Ease. She sat on the floor with them. Played with them. Laughed with them. Held babies in her arms while they smiled back at her completely relaxed. Then came the moment that surprised many viewers watching around the world. Catherine began speaking Italian fluently to the children. And suddenly, a forgotten part of her past came back into focus. Before university, Catherine had spent time living in Florence. Years later, that experience quietly resurfaced in the most authentic way possible, not through an interview, not through a documentary, but naturally, in conversation with children. And the Italians loved it. Because Italy values family deeply. Warmth matters there. Connection matters. A royal figure who genuinely seemed happy to be around children, who spoke the language, who moved through the visit without stiffness or performance, it resonated immediately. By the second day, royal commentators were already calling the trip a major success. Not because of flashy headlines. Because it felt real. Royal historian Hugo Vickers described it as a near-perfect royal visit. He emphasized how natural it appeared. Purposeful. Dignified. Completely free of spectacle. And coming from someone like Vickers, that means something. He has spent decades watching the royal family up close. He has seen staged tours, forced moments, manufactured charm. So when someone like that says a visit felt genuine, people pay attention. And maybe that's because genuine public connection is becoming increasingly rare. Now hold that image in your mind. Catherine surrounded by cheering crowds in Italy. Children running toward her. A future queen completely at ease. Because now we need to cross the Atlantic. At almost the exact same moment Catherine was dominating headlines in Europe, Meghan Markle released a new promotional video for her lifestyle brand, As Ever. And the internet reaction was brutal. The video featured Meghan in glamorous outfits, dramatic poses, carefully lit scenes, slow cinematic shots, tea pouring, elegant gestures, lingering camera angles. But instead of admiration, the response online was confusion. People couldn't figure out what the video was trying to be. Was it selling jam? A lifestyle? A luxury fantasy? A celebrity image? And that confusion quickly turned into mockery. Comment sections exploded with criticism. Viewers described the video as overly staged, overly self-important, and disconnected from reality. And whether fair or unfair, one criticism appeared again and again. It felt performative. That's the problem modern audiences have become incredibly sensitive to. People can instantly detect the difference between authentic warmth and curated branding pretending to be warmth. And the harder someone tries to force relatability, the more artificial it can start to feel. That gap, between image and audience perception, has quietly become one of the biggest problems surrounding the Sussex brand. Because attention is not the same thing as affection. Millions of people may watch something. That doesn't mean they feel emotionally connected to it. And emotionally, the contrast between Italy and California could not have been sharper. One woman was kneeling on classroom floors surrounded by laughing children. The other was releasing polished lifestyle footage that audiences struggled to connect with. And then comes the part of the story where optics turn into something much bigger. Money. Because according to multiple reports, Harry and Meghan's lifestyle in Montecito reportedly costs around $6 million per year just to maintain. $6 million. And a huge portion of that reportedly goes towards security alone. Then there's the mortgage. Staffing. Travel. Operations. The entire machine required to sustain their post-royal life. Which explains why commercial success matters so much. The Netflix deal. Spotify. Books. Documentaries. Lifestyle branding. All of it feeds into the same reality. The Sussex operation has to constantly generate revenue. And lately, that engine appears to be slowing down. The Spotify partnership ended. Netflix projects reportedly cooled. Brand launches received mixed reactions. Attention kept coming. But attention alone doesn't pay for a $6 million annual lifestyle. And that's where the irony becomes impossible to ignore. One of the biggest reasons Harry and Meghan gave for leaving royal life was financial independence. They wanted freedom. Control. The ability to build something outside the institution. But independence comes with a cost. Inside the monarchy, infrastructure already exists. Security, residences, staffing, support systems, all built into a centuries-old institution. Outside it? Every expense becomes personal. Every paycheck matters. Every brand deal matters. Every headline matters. And that pressure changes everything. But the most uncomfortable part of this entire story may involve the Invictus Games. Because Invictus was supposed to rise above all the drama. No matter what people thought about Harry or Meghan personally, the mission itself, supporting wounded veterans and service personnel, carried genuine emotional weight. That's why recent developments surrounding the organization have raised serious questions. Major sponsors have reportedly stepped away. Boeing, according to recent reporting, did not renew its sponsorship. Governments have reduced support in certain areas. And allegations surrounding spending and branding have created growing scrutiny. Now, to be fair, some claims remain disputed and should absolutely be treated carefully. But regardless of individual allegations, one fact is difficult to ignore. Sponsors appear increasingly hesitant. And when corporate sponsors quietly begin walking away from a project tied to wounded veterans, people notice. Because the veterans are supposed to be the focus. Not celebrity branding. Not image management. Not personal narratives. The games were meant to honor resilience and recovery. So when conversations shift toward branding controversies instead of the competitors themselves, public frustration grows quickly. And underneath all of this sits the deeper issue nobody can fully avoid anymore. The battle between performance and authenticity. Because while Meghan and Harry continue trying to manage narratives, Catherine seems to have reached a point where she no longer needs to. And that matters. Especially after what Catherine endured over the past year. Remember what happened during her illness. As she privately underwent cancer treatment, social media exploded with conspiracy theories. Endless speculation. Rumors about her marriage. Her health. Her appearance. It became ugly. A woman facing one of the most frightening moments of her life was treated like an internet mystery people felt entitled to solve. And yet, when Catherine finally addressed the public, she didn't turn it into spectacle. No dramatic interviews. No emotional media tour. No blame campaign. Just a calm video. Measured. Honest. Human. She acknowledged the diagnosis, thanked her medical team, and quietly spoke to others facing similar fears. You are not alone. That was the message. And maybe that's why the Italy trip hit people so emotionally. Because after everything she endured, seeing her smiling again, healthy again, reconnecting naturally with the public again, it felt bigger than a royal appearance. It felt personal. People weren't cheering for a celebrity. They were cheering for someone they had watched quietly endure years of pressure without constantly demanding sympathy in return. And that kind of public trust cannot be manufactured overnight. It takes years. Decades, even. Which brings us to what may happen next. Reports suggest Meghan's next major move could involve a vow renewal ceremony with Harry, something potentially tied to media content, publicity, and future projects. And whether those reports prove true or not, they reveal something important about the current situation. Everything increasingly feels content-driven. Every moment becomes material. Every event becomes branding. Meanwhile, William and Catherine continue moving in the opposite direction. No public feuds. No constant rebuttals. No dramatic counterattacks. They simply continue showing up. And soon, they'll reportedly head to Australia, a place where comparisons to Harry and Meghan's earlier tour will be unavoidable. But William and Catherine likely won't address any of that directly. They won't need to. Because the monarchy's greatest strength has never been winning arguments publicly. Its strength is endurance. Consistency. Patience. It keeps moving forward while public opinion slowly settles on its own. And maybe that's the biggest lesson from everything we witnessed this week. Public relations can create headlines. It can create moments. It can generate clicks. But it cannot manufacture decades of trust. That only comes from repeated behavior over time. And right now, the public appears to be drawing a very clear distinction between those who seek attention and those who quietly earn respect. When people looked at Catherine in Italy, they didn't see a campaign. They saw the result of 20 years of consistency finally paying off. A woman speaking the local language. Laughing naturally with children. Walking confidently through crowds that genuinely adored her. Not because they were told to. Because they trusted her. And trust is the one thing no branding strategy can fake forever. In the end, Meghan spent years trying to become the star of the monarchy. But Catherine spent those same years quietly becoming its future. And those are two completely different ambitions. Because stars depend on spotlights. And spotlights can move. But institutions survive through continuity, duty, stability, presence. Year after year. Reign after reign. And this week in Italy may not have started that story. But it may have been the moment the world finally realized how it ends. And something tells me the next chapter is going to be even bigger. So stay watching.